Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sipping and Selling
with Joey Chanel. Welcome back to another episode of Sipping and Selling. Today, I am so excited to welcome Allison Varone. She is the head of marketing for Campari America. Welcome to Sipping and Selling, Allison.
Thanks, Joey. Nice to see you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here. We're here to talk about Crodino. Crodino was the star of the show for me when I was bringing Sippin and Selling to the South Beach Food and Wine Festival this year. And it is a product that it's been around since the 60s from what I researched, but for me, it was brand new. And it is a non-alcoholic spritz. And this is the perfect time to talk about this product because that is what is taking over our industry. So I am so excited to dig in. I'm going to take my first sip. And did I leave anything out about your title?
No, you did not. Thank you. Enjoy. Also, it's nice you can enjoy it any time of day.
Absolutely.
Which is great. And I'm glad you got a chance to experience it at SoBe because South Beach Food and Wine Festival, because we just launched it last year in a couple markets in the U.S. And we've had great reception, both from a consumer trade perspective. And we think that it's a great addition to our Aperitivo portfolio here at Campari.
It definitely is. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with Campari, their main, star of the show, the last, I'd say 10 years in the business, it had a real splash, is Aperol. So you may identify the color as being similar. Once you get to try Crodino, you will see that there is some similar taste profiles, but the secret is in the bottle. There is definitely a secret. I think you said 16 ingredients in here and spices and citrus, and that's what makes this beautiful product. And it's such an elevated experience, like I said, at South Beach Food and Wine for me because I was working. So I wasn't looking to participate on the alcohol side, but I didn't feel like I was left out. I felt like the experience tastes like there's alcohol in the product, even though there isn't. And I think that's what's going to make this brand last, because a lot of people who are looking to either not necessarily take away from their drinking experience, but maybe have some balance, it doesn't take away from the taste profile. So I think you guys really nailed it.
Yeah, that's great. And what's interesting, and I'm glad you're enjoying it, because what's interesting about Crodino is that it's actually been around for quite some time. So it's not what we call a new world product, right? In the non-alcoholic space, which obviously is extremely is growing right now, and consumers are obviously looking for different moderation. So it was created in 1965, as you mentioned, before the non-alc trend even became a thing, in the world and particularly in the US. So it has some history. And to your point, it's a product that is made with a lot of care and craftsmanship, of multiple different herbs and spices. That it's a very complex portfolio, which makes it a very interesting drinking occasion for someone, right? That's looking for a different kind of spritz without the alcohol. So we find it. We found some great reception to it again because it's very full flavored, and to your point, it has this bittersweet um, notes to it, right? So if you like a little bit of bitter, but you also like a little bit of sweet, you're definitely going to gravitate towards Crodino. And the color also is extremely fun, right? We know people love vibrant colors, perfect for getting into the spring and summer season, particularly in Miami where we were in February. Obviously, is the height of the season, so we think it goes well and as a great complement to the spritz phenomenon that has really taken over the U.S. and globally over the past couple of years.
Absolutely. And because of your Campari name, it's going to stand the test of time. There's a labor of love that goes into the making of Crodino. I think I read something about it takes 6 months to batch. Is that correct or no?
Yes, it definitely is. It was created by in northern Italy by an herbalist. So very much it's a craftsmanship of different herbs
Mm-hmm.
and spices, as I was mentioning, with infusions, and it takes time to make. It's not something that can be made very easily. So it has that real craftsmanship and provenance.
Right. And like I said, the non-alcoholic category is on fire. So you guys are launching at the right time, but you've been around so long. So what do you think had, outside of it being on fire now, why do you think you guys didn't bring it to the US originally until this year?
It's a great question. I mean, I think we wanted to wait until we had somewhat of a critical mass of Spritz occasion in the US, right? And Aperol is obviously a shining star for us in terms of the trajectory of that brand over the last decade. So we really felt like we've established the Spritz occasion and almost created the category, which we now know everyone's obviously looking for a Spritz version, right? So we had to wait until we felt it was the right moment, and we felt like now is the right moment where people are understanding what Spritz is, love to create that sociability, that obviously the color, the low alcohol content of a Spritz has been very well received, and now we feel it was the right moment to bring a non-alc version to the table in the US.
Perfect. And it's going to be merchandise, I'm sure, on the non-alcoholics part of the retail stores. But because of that, now you guys get to enter a new lane, right? Where you can sell to grocery and other outlets that maybe you haven't in the past. Have you been seeing some great success in that field?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I think that, in the spirits industry, the non-alc is still, fairly new, right? So I think the route to market is still, working its way out. But yes, we've seen some great success retail, obviously on trade. We've had a lot of on trade, the menus, as you were mentioning, picking up Crodino as a non-alc option, which has been great. And yeah, we're starting to see some traction in grocery, and types of channels like that. And what's nice is that it's a complement to our other products. So if you have, accounts either in the on-trade, restaurants, bars, or also retail outlets that do a good amount of business for Aperol, they do a good amount of business for Campari. This is a natural extension, right, of kind of that portfolio. So we've seen some success on that so far as well.
Absolutely. And you guys are with Southern Wine, at least in Florida. And with the non alcoholic category, most brands aren't, right? They don't have that army behind them. So you guys are lucky to have that distribution partnership because it is going to get your foot in the door alongside your other brands that have stood the test of time. So it's also something that's niche, in my opinion, right? Because a lot of the other non alcoholic products that Southern carries are like, waters or mixers, right? So this is something very fresh and new. And like I said, I'm sipping on it. It's delicious and fresh. How do you think we could describe this in one sentence for the viewers and listeners that haven't got a chance to try Crodino yet?
Yeah, I would say the taste profile, the way I explain it, is kind of full flavored, bittersweet, around, herbal um, profile, right?
Hmm.
But very refreshing as well. I'm sure you agree with that. So, I mean, it's very, very simple to make. It's very simple, similar to a spritz, right? Where you basically pour in the Crodino, right? You're adding, a slice of fresh orange. Make sure there's plenty of ice, and then you can add a splash of soda if you want to or not. But it's extremely refreshing and easy to make.
Absolutely. And I was complimenting you on the experiential marketing that you guys did. And that's what you're the head of, the marketing. So let's sit there for a minute. You had this activation that was stunning. It was an elevated, I guess, deck setting with a gorgeous bar, with gorgeous staff, and lots of fun decor, as you had sent me as well. There was fun bucket hats, and the color of the product was, mirroring everywhere. And then next door, you had the Aperol activation as well. And that was nice because while I sat back and I was talking to your PR company and trying to organize this, I was watching people have it click, right? Like, oh, maybe it is the same company and they weren't sure. And obviously, depending upon which day, if it was trade day or if it was a patron day, that's where you would see the people with kind of having that aha moment. Do you find that you guys are trying to educate the consumer that this does come from Campari, or do you think you're just trying to see what it does on its own and have legs? And I ask because I remember specifically when Aperol started to come around. And like I said, it's been around a lot longer, but for me personally, I remember it about 10 years ago. I was living in New York and I remember just like people in the Hamptons were all drinking it. And I don't know if this is true, but I feel like there was a lot of activations where you guys were sponsoring it. And so of course it was free for patrons. And I just remember seeing the beautiful glass. Everybody was holding it in their white, during the summer. And it was just such a hit. So I know that was a long-winded question. Do you find that you guys are having to educate the consumers that this is a quality product on its own? Or are you also trying to say, listen, this is, our cousin and this is another product and we're not trying to compete with the original? Or do you think there's just a different lane for this product?
Yeah, it's a great question. We see it as very complementary, right? So, as I was mentioning before, I mean, the phenomenon of the spritz has been quite a story in the US, and you just mentioned it, right? Is that the people remember their first interaction with Aperol, and where they were, who they were with, the occasion, right? The weather, right? The look of the glass, obviously, that has become, quite popular. So, we think that Crodino will do the same for us, for those consumers that want a mindfuler drinking occasion, right? A non-alc version. It's definitely not to be there to replace. What we're seeing, as I'm sure you've heard in various of your podcasts, is that people are what we call zebra striping, right? They're
Hmm.
drinking a non-alc, then they'll go back to an alc, then they'll go back to a non-alc, right? So I think that it's not linear. So we are not necessarily, positioning Crodino separately. We're positioning it as a complement to a spritz occasion where Campari leads, right? So certainly it was by intention that you saw we had Aperol and Crodino side by side, right? Definitely bringing it into the fold of our spritz portfolio, obviously closest to Aperol, to offer people different options within the family.
Amazing. Amazing. Are you seeing the same Instagrammable tag situation with Crodino as you did with Aperol?
Yes. Yes, definitely. And it's still quite small, right? We're still just launching it. People are still learning about it. But yes, the color, the look and feel, I think you saw it when you mentioned it in Florida, right? The yellow pops, it's vibrant. People are drawn to it. If it's in the right environment, we've done things on boats, we've done things on rooftops, we've done things on seaside. Obviously, we did the beach in Miami. So, it really lends itself to a convivial and joyful moment that people are gravitating towards and very Instagrammable.
And super smart because everybody is looking for that memory, right? Creating a memory, creating experience. And that's what our business is about. And a lot of people miss that mark because they're just trying to sell something, right? Or take over, maybe if they were wanting to be the next Aperol Spritz or Mule or something. And they're missing the mark, which is like you mentioned. I remember the first time I tried Aperol. That's not something everybody says. It's like the first time they tried alcohol in general, and maybe one other thing. Like, I'm not going to name any other brands, but maybe they'll have one other story, but not necessarily, right? It's just like, oh, we went to this party, we tried this product. Oh, we went on a boat, someone had this product. It's never really another experience that made them remember the product. And that is the best thing you can do as a brand. And obviously, you guys have done it right, because everybody knows what Aperol is. Everybody has heard of Campari. And you guys have another, you have a big portfolio of products. So can we talk about the other ones that people who are listening to my show that maybe are uneducated and don't know what other brands are in your portfolio?
Yes, for sure. Yes, so obviously Aperol and Campari are obviously the top brands for us. We also have Crodino, obviously. We have Espolòn Tequila, which is a massive brand for us, which has been a great success. We have Wild Turkey, we have Grand Marnier, we have Cabossier, we have Sky Vodka, we have Russell's Reserve. So you can see we have lots of products in the portfolio that make us, very I think advantageous to different consumers, different occasions, different accounts, across the U.S. So we're very blessed with a nice wide portfolio that with different categories included.
Absolutely. So, you being the head of marketing for Campari, I assume that's so much fun. Creating these experiences is not something in my wheelhouse. I was very much just showing up, doing tastings, and bringing, like a pop up banner, very old school. I've never participated in such a big experience where we had build outs with any of the brands I've owned or represented. And I'm assuming that is so much fun because, like I said, you want to leave a lasting impression, but it's also like, how do you one up yourself the next time? How do we stand the test of time? How do we make sure we keep having people come back and keep posting and keep wanting to buy our products? What do you think are some of the things that you look at every time you're creating a new experience where you're trying to just change it, but also stay true to your brands?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's always the struggle, right, with marketers, because everything, a lot of brands are fighting for attention. To your point, so I think for us, it's about first and foremost being true to our brand. Um, So, for instance, Crodino or Aperol, right? Really leaning into the color, leaning into the lifestyle, leaning into what we are trying to drive in communication wise with the brand. But then also, it's about what's the experience and the memory we want consumers to take away? And you mentioned it before, right? Is people remember their experience. So what we try to do is create things that are very memorable, right? So you remember what that moment was, on in Miami trying Crodino for the first time, right?
Mhm.
You remember, a moment with Grand Marnier having a grand margarita, right, with friends or a particular account. What was that experience? So we really try and drive what do we want the consumer to take away, and sometimes it doesn't need to be anything big. I'll give you a real fun example that we executed last year in New York with Aperol. Is we actually hired 100 waiters to walk around the city and blitz Greenwich Village in Manhattan with trays of Aperol. They were actually not real drinks, but they
Okay.
were they look like real drinks, and it created such a spectacle through the streets, in downtown Manhattan that people were like, "What is that?" And it was right at the moment around 5 o'clock, where people were getting off of work, and it was a beautiful day, and they're ready to go have a spritz, right?
Mhm.
And we were right there with a bunch of orange Vespas and having a bunch of waiters who blitzed Washington Square Park. So those are the kind of areas of the kind of things that we try to push of memorability, right, and distinctiveness, which is not easy. You have to be creative, and it takes a lot of time to get there. But we challenge ourselves to do it each time.
I love that. That's so fun. And I'm sure you had a lot of articles written up about it or a lot of people taking pictures of me like, what is going on here?
Exactly.
But for sure. I mean, let's dig into you a little bit, Allison, because you have a background in marketing in other areas too, outside of Crodino, that probably gave you that experience. But talk to me a little bit about yourself. I'd love to get to know you. Are you live in New York currently?
Yes, yes. I'm a native New Yorker.
Amazing. And you started, I heard from another podcast you were on, you started with Martha Stewart.
Yes, many, many, many years ago. Yes, I started my career in publishing, and most notably with Martha at MSLO when it was the heyday of publishing days.
How crazy. How amazing that she's still so relevant, right?
Amazing,
That's
amazing.
another brand stood the test of time, right? I'm sure you learned some things that you were like, ooh, they were in the back of your arsenal and you didn't realize it. That's so interesting to me. So, did you go to school for marketing and that's what you knew you wanted to do?
Yeah, I mean, I went to undergraduate, and then yeah, my MBA was in international business. Always enjoyed marketing, psychology behind it. Obviously, learning the commercial business at the same time through the industry. You know what I mean? So I've been very blessed to work on many, many brands, small, big, that have paved the way to where I am now.
And how did you get to Campari?
Yeah, I mean, through networking, right? And I've always been a big fan of the company.
Mhm.
The fun fact is, I learned about Aperol back in the day when I was studying abroad, before it was even here in the US, and it's been in my blood ever since. So Campari's always been in my sights in terms of working for them one day. So it's come full circle.
I love that. That's amazing. And that's what I love about these products because there are a lot of people out there that are yearning and wanting and desiring to go to Italy, right? And have this spritz and have this experience. But I think that Aperol and now Crodino do a really good job about bringing that elevated experience into people's homes and into wherever they are. And you had mentioned you're launched in a few markets. So where else are you guys currently with Crodino?
Yeah, currently we launched last year in 7 markets. So California, Texas, Florida, Massachusetts, Illinois, DC, and Maryland. And we're expanding to another roughly 10 markets this year. So we'll be definitely in most major markets, very, very soon. So we're very excited about the expansion. And we've had a very good response to Dry January, obviously, which is still growing and a phenomenon, and we leaned into that. Which is one of the reasons why you saw us at Sobe, obviously, right after that. So yeah, we think it's on its way to being a great success, and we'll potentially have more innovation in the future in the spritz category later this year as well. So we'll certainly keep you guys posted as those things progress.
I love that. Yeah, for sure. I was going to ask if you were going to have other innovations and flavor profiles, but I also wanted to ask, what does Crodino mean? Does it mean anything in Italian?
No, it's a great question. No, I don't think it does. It's just the brand name that was developed back in the '60s by a herbalist in Piedmont.
Okay,
But
well,
everyone in Italy knows what it is. All the Italian Americans here are so excited to see it finally here after all that time being in Europe.
I'm sure. And the vessel is so unique too, guys. I'm going to hold it up for the camera. So it's like it has a beer top cap,
Mhm.
which is unusual for like an RTD, right? And then you guys sent me this beautiful bottle opener, but it's also in a smaller size, which non-alcoholic. Thank you for the visual. Non-alcoholic products can range obviously from the can, and it could be a tall boy can, or it could be like a large mixer bottle or whatever. And I also love, like I said, I personally haven't seen anybody else doing it in this type of bottle. And I'm sure there was a method to this madness. Is this how it's carried overseas as well, or is it in a different vessel?
Yes, no, that's the correct bottle. Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
cool.
And it's cute and it's eye-catching and you just open it up. Obviously, it's why we give you the bottle openers. If you're able to get those, pour it over ice, put a little bit of an orange wedge, and you're off to go.
And it's the perfect pour. The one bottle filled my glass, and as I'm nursing it, even though I don't have to because there's no alcohol in it, I'm enjoying it. Very nice. It opens up with the flavor profile, like you were saying, Allison. There's a bunch of different elevations. So when I first take a sip, I do have the bitterness that Aperol is known for, and now Crodino. Then at the end is where I have the sweetness. And for me personally, there's layers. There's all different layers. And I know it's secret ingredients, but can you name a few of the ingredients and the notes for the listeners?
Yes, if I remember, I'm trying to remember, there was 15 or 16. Then there's cardamom is one that comes to mind.
Yep, that's the one that
Um,
I taste. And I think there's
yes,
some clove maybe.
yes, there's a little bit of clove as well. I'm blanking on some of them right now, but yes, there's different ones that are obviously all infusions and blended.
Right.
But you get a little bit of the bitter and also the sweet and the coriander as well. That gives you a little bit of that spiciness, a little bit of
Hmm.
nutmeg, and then you get yeah, that's where you get the bitter and the sweet combination.
And the color is the citrus component. So is it orange only?
Um, yes, with a little bit of that. Yes,
Okay,
yes.
perfect. Amazing. Like I said,
Yes,
it's
there's
still
also
like,
marigold in there as well, the kind of the yellow from the marigold flowers as well.
oh,
So it's very
beautiful.
complex.
Very complex. And like I said, labor of love. It's very delicious and it keeps growing as I'm drinking it and the aroma is delightful as well. I appreciate you guys sending me the bottle opener and the samples because I'm enjoying it myself. And for those of
Great.
you listening that haven't gotten a chance to try Crodino yet, it's coming to a market near you soon. So make sure you're following them on Instagram. And also I did see that you could order it on Amazon. How is that going?
Yes, we're still working on obviously getting mass distribution, be able to ship it to all the other markets, but we're starting to, yes, to be able to get it online as well. As you know, in the three-tier system, we have to make sure that it's available in the States, but we will get there slowly but surely. But we do believe that the online component is going to be big for Crodino, just like it is for our other brands as well.
Absolutely. Do you feel like, obviously, because it's non alc, you're going to be doing a lot of things differently, but for those of us out there who are used to just selling alcohol, right? Do you feel like your route to market strategy was different? Did you want to try to build this brand off instead of on? Or are you doing it at the same time?
It's a great question. I mean, we think it has legs for both channels, right? As I was mentioning before, it's really all about it being a complement to our current Spritz portfolio, which is very much rooted in on trade and also off trade. So it's really in both channels,
Got
which
it.
is why we're sticking with obviously our distributor, our route to market that we currently have today.
Amazing. So, what else is on the horizon for Crodino? You're doing another activation similar, I'm assuming, to what I experienced at South Beach Food and Wine, or is it going to be a completely different build?
Yeah, we're doing a couple of different activations this year with our Spritz occasion. So we'll have obviously Coachella, which is our biggest, which is in a couple weeks out in California. So Crodino will be there. We're also doing a series of pop-ups with Aperol throughout the year in various markets. So Crodino will certainly show up there.
Mhm.
And then obviously we'll be doing, various tastings across the markets that we're launching in, right? Just to drive people to try it as yourself. As soon as people try it, they love it. So we
Yeah.
know that, getting people to sample it and try it is going to be critical too. So we have a lot in the plans for this year. And as I said, we could have we'll have some more exciting things coming up in the Spritz space in a couple of months as well. So yeah, we're very excited, and we're going to be doing a pop up in LA and a Spritz Square in LA in June as well. So that's probably the next one that's coming up, similar to how you saw in Miami a couple weeks ago.
So fun. So let me pick your marketing brain because I didn't go to school for marketing. And I, like I said, do not have that in my experience as being a brand owner. My father's 89, and it was always very much like, fake it to make it. So I would try to make it look like I had this big budget, but I didn't. And, obviously, I'm assuming that's not the case for Campari. And you guys have these gorgeous products, gorgeous activations, such success. I mean, even like we were talking about, this product's been around since the 60s. You didn't feel a need to bring it into the US market until now. I mean, that's a big deal and also luxury. So, I want to pick your marketing brain. What do you think you could advise some brands either that are just launching or that have been in the market stagnant, but still around, right, for 7 to 10 years? What do you think is something that they should look into in the marketing world and invest in?
It's a great question. I think it's challenging for small brands to break through, right? So I think it depends. I think it depends on what your strategy is, right? If you're really going to be driving a brand, you want people to try something, you want people to and consumers to really adopt it. Obviously you want them to have a good experience with the brand, which probably starts in the on trade, right? And in restaurants and things like that, again, depending on the product.
Hmm.
But you have to be very strategic of how you're spending your dollars, right? So I always tell small brands, start small, and really pick areas or neighborhoods even where you want to start driving awareness, right? Finding dollars that can be efficient for you. Word of mouth is really critical. So, what's your social presence? And make sure that you're starting a little bit at a time and you start to grow your awareness over time before you start to put a lot of money and investment behind, big things that are quite costly. So, I think that you have to start a little bit kind of what I say guerrilla
Hmm.
or a bit tactical at first, before you can even entertain spending, the big dollars that some of the big brands do.
Absolutely. And I ask because I've been on the receiving end of an email asking to be a sponsor for something major, right? And you're so excited. And you're like, oh, when I was younger, they were like, how'd they find me? Why did they ask me? And it's just like, oh, yeah, because, you're the brand new shiny toy. And I had to learn from my father because he's been in the industry much longer than I was at the time. And he's like, listen, there's a time and place for things like that. And yes, you're going to think you're only going to be asked once, but that's not the case. And then you don't even have to be asked. Eventually, you could just ask yourself to be invited to the party. But you have to make sure that you don't cast this wide net and spend this huge budget on a big activation because where's the return on the investment? So I feel like a lot of brands sometimes will be all excited to maybe be a vendor, but maybe they don't have distribution yet in the market, or it's only in one region of California and it's only in mom and pop stores instead of the chains. And sometimes they'll still go for it, right? Because you'll hit that audience and you'll hope that they gravitate towards your product and you hope that they post and they hope that they're asking about it, but you only have like maybe those 2 weeks after, right? For them to have that experience to hopefully then go take that to the liquor store and see if they have it. And if they don't, then it's kind of like a waste of money, in my opinion. And that's why I wanted to ask you because I get this question often all the time like, should I sponsor? Should I donate? Should I just donate product, even if it's not something that's going to be a big event? And I think you're right with your answer. It depends on the brand, it depends on the product. It also depends on what you're trying to do. But liquid to lips is king, right? So it's hard.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it all comes down to discipline, right?
Mhm.
And I think that sometimes it's to your point, I think you get excited for some of the big shiny things, right? But you have to really ask the question, what are you trying to achieve? Right. And to your point, and we have a 3-tier system here in the United States, it takes time to get products and distribution, with the thousands and thousands of accounts that we have in the United States, right? And we want our consumers to be able to find our products. So sometimes you need to work on the tactics first before you can put the money in to drive that mass appeal and awareness that you're looking for. So I think it really comes back down to being strategic and being disciplined.
Absolutely. So you guys have a plan, I'm assuming, for the next, year, and you guys do it very buttoned up, I'm assuming, but I don't know to be true. I would love to hear like what you guys are hoping for in the next year with Crodino. I know you're expanding in the markets you mentioned, but are you hoping that you're going to be in a national retailer, like I said, like a grocery, and see what those numbers look like so you guys can get some intel since it's something new and a different category for the brand portfolio? Or is your strategy a little bit different than just focusing on this new channel? I ask because I have a lot of non-alcoholic brands that come on the show, and they're always very excited about the convenience side. And that's something I don't know anything about. I don't know anything about the C-stores. Is that an avenue you guys are looking to go into or no?
Yes, it's a great question. I mean, we're looking at distribution opportunities. C-store is a big opportunity too across our entire portfolio. So
Mhm.
not just Crodino. As we're seeing some really great green shoots of C-store convenience, small size, right? People are looking for different formats. RTD in a can obviously is one, but then there's also obviously smaller formats. Crodino's a small format. So we're looking at all those opportunities. In terms of Crodino specifically, you mentioned it. I mean, obviously expanding, as we mentioned, into other markets, making sure that we're getting the distribution and the consumer pull is there. And then we're also going to have something quite exciting later in the summer in the Spritz world. We can't spoil it today with you. We'll
That's okay.
certainly double back, but we're definitely going to have something exciting coming later in the summer this year as well in terms of innovation. So the future is bright, at least for Campari here for 2026.
I love that. That's a beautiful way to end your segment. You have a very romantic way of speaking, Allison. It's definitely in your genes, so I love it. Thank you so much for that tidbit. And no pressure here, but I bank my episodes. So if you wanted to say it just so you could have a reel later, your secret safe with me, no pressure, but just letting you know. I have episodes now banked through October. It's true. But
Good
anyway,
to know. Good to
yeah.
know.
But anyway, I'd love to see you come back to Sippin and Selling. That would be so much fun for me. And if you want to be here, I'd love to have you. And I can't wait to see what's on the horizon for the rest of the portfolio. Do you feel like there's anything else I left out that we didn't touch on with Crodino?
No, I don't think so. Thanks for the time. I'm really, really happy you're enjoying the product, which is great. And I think that we're expecting obviously great things for Crodino and beyond. And let's definitely double back when we have some more exciting news later in the summer.
I love that. I will definitely be reaching out. Cheers to you guys and Campari. Thank you again for sending samples to me. It's delicious. And I am a big fan. I will be always talking and promoting it for you guys because it is stellar. Thank you so much for being here, Allison Varone. I appreciate
Thank
you.
you so much. Take care.
Cheers.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sipping and Selling.
With Joey Chanel.